Hi everyone. So as you can tell by the title, I did indeed buy a new apartment. And I thought it would be interesting in this video to discuss the whole process of how I bought the apartment. So looking at how I got financing, what I'm doing with my townhouse, how I'm navigating the journey between being here and renovating the other place, eventually moving, kind of talk through all of the plans, all of the things, and even some of the financial aspects of having gone through this journey as far as the purchase of the apartment, and then talking about some of the renovations that I'm doing, basically giving you the project overview in every aspect. Hi, my name is Raina and this is Small Retired Life, and on my channel we talk about all things retirement, living our best life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond. If you're new, welcome here. There is this idea that downsizing is supposed to simplify your life. You sell your old, bigger home, you move into a smaller home, you have a more peaceful life with less responsibility. And potentially that is true once you come out the other side of that journey. But there is this whole part in the middle, and we discussed that in last week's video. And we talked about that messy middle more from the point of view of how to psychologically and emotionally get through the chaos that happens between now and supposedly that more peaceful life. I want to focus more on the practical aspects of that journey in this video. I want to talk about what kind of apartment I purchased. I want to talk about the financing and the process money-wise that it took to get that apartment. Also talk about the renovation project that I'm going to have to do in that apartment, and talk about what I'm going to do with my current townhouse and how I'm handling all of that. There is this immense financial aspect to downsizing that I don't think a lot of people think about. Of course, there's exceptions to everything. Some people can easily buy more than one home and navigate through that process. But for most people, that's not always the case. So I thought I would talk about those practical kind of money things and the projects and the journey that is involved between going from one larger home into a smaller home. And I know that a lot of people, as they get older, potentially will go through this journey, and I think it's going to be interesting watching me navigate this whole thing. And I want to have kind of a series of videos that documents this journey in every aspect. So right now, this video is more kind of the project management aspect of it. We're going to talk about all the things and all the plans and what I'm doing and what's happening. I am not going to show you the apartment yet. I'll show you maybe the view that I have from the apartment. I have an amazing view from this apartment. I can tell you that the apartment is about 5 houses down from where I am right now. It is part of the condominium complex that I currently live in. So I'm staying in my area. I'm not moving out of the area. I am going to be living on a very high floor of a tower, and I will have a fairly nice view. I will insert some B-roll so you can see the kind of view that I will wake up to every day and that I will see on a daily basis. Of course, a lot of the reason that I purchased this apartment is because of the view of my beloved river. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be actually able to see it from my window. The apartment itself is really ugly. I have to be honest. I don't want to go into too much detail as to why the apartment is a bit of a wreck, but essentially I purchased a 2-bedroom apartment. It's about 1,072 square feet. So I will be moving from a 1,400 and some square foot townhouse. And I found out exactly how big my townhouse is because as part of the sales process, you need to have it professionally measured. So my current townhouse is apparently 1,427 square feet, and I will be moving into a townhouse or into an apartment that is 1,072 square feet, but with no basement. And my current townhouse has a basement, which we don't here in Canada count in our square footage. So there's probably like another 600 or 700 square feet in my current townhouse above that 1,400 in the basement. My basement is not developed, so I don't really use that space except for my washer and dryer. So I am moving into what is a 1,000 and some square foot apartment. There's no stairs or anything like that. I am moving into a secure building, meaning that it is one of those situations where you have a concierge at the front desk and you cannot access the building without going through the concierge. So if I have guests over, they have to sign into the building, register their license plates, and the concierge will let them in and then they can come up to my unit. I love that security aspect of this building, and it was one of the reasons I really wanted to buy in this building. There are essentially two towers next to each other, and I really wanted an apartment specifically in the one tower. I wanted to be 11th floor or up, and I am really high up. The apartment has 21 floors in that building, and I am quite high up. I also wanted a 2-bedroom because I needed the extra bedroom for my filming and editing and all my camera gear and my books and that type of thing. In that building, I think I may have mentioned this before, apartments like the one I'm describing rarely come up on the MLS market. They are either sold privately or the realtor happens to know about them and they never actually hit the MLS system. So it's very difficult to get an apartment in that building. I have been looking for close to 2 years and have had nothing come up that was anywhere near what I wanted. The apartment I'm buying was more or less a private sale in that my realtor knew the people that were selling it. It had been a rental for 10 years or longer, and they wanted to put it on the market, and I basically purchased it before it went on the market. The apartment is an absolute wreck. It was damaged heavily by the renters that were in there, and it will require a complete gut. So in the sense that all the carpets, all the baseboards, all the doors, all the kitchen cabinets, every toilet, every bathtub, everything has to be removed from the apartment, and we have to start from scratch. Now, this is not a new journey for me. I had to do this in my current townhome. When I purchased this townhome, it had never been renovated ever, and it was built in 1979. The apartment building that I'm moving into was built in 1981. And I was looking for that. I didn't want someone else's renovation. I didn't want to pay up for someone else's renovation. I wanted to get an apartment that I could like literally tear down completely and start from scratch, because I've done that before. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy being in a space that's designed for me and how I want to live. So this apartment completely filled all my criteria. Now, is it the perfect apartment? Absolutely not. The view is great, but it's not exactly the side of the tower that I want to be on. But it's about 90% exactly what I wanted. So it closely fit the criteria that I had if I was going to go from a townhouse to an apartment. So right now, to just put it out there, I own two properties. I own the townhome that I'm currently in, and I also own the apartment. And let me just say that is intensely chaotic and extremely stressful. And I will tell you why, but I will also touch on why I'm doing this so that you have an idea of the type of risks that sometimes you have to take on your downsize journey or any time that you have a change in life. So let me start off with reiterating a little bit as to why I am doing this. Why am I leaving my beautiful townhouse, and why did I buy an ugly apartment? Well, really for me, it's all about lifestyle. I am just one person and I'm living in 1,400 square feet. There are rooms in this townhouse that I do not use. They essentially sit completely unused, but I'm paying for those rooms. I'm paying higher taxes to have this townhouse. My taxes in this townhouse are about $4,000 a year, which is really high for a townhouse in Calgary. And my taxes in my apartment will be $2,000 a year. Now, the apartment has higher condominium fees, or as some of my American friends call them, HOA fees. And that's because my apartment has HOA fees that include all of the utilities. So my heat, my water, my sewer, my garbage, the security with the concierge. There's all kinds of things that are included in those HOA fees. My current townhome, I pay $440 for my HOA fees, but I also pay anywhere from $150 to about $200 and some a month in utilities, plus I pay the higher taxes. So all in all, my actual expenses will be about $100 less a month in the new apartment. Not a huge difference, definitely not enough for me to have made this decision on a financial basis. $100 for me anyways is not a big deal. Now, the one other thing that's worth mentioning when it comes to money is that I will sell my current home for quite a bit more than what my apartment cost me. So I will be able to invest the difference that I receive. And that amount of money that I will be able to invest will probably give me an additional $400 a month. So not only will I be saving $100, but the amount of money I can invest will give me an additional $400 a month. So in essence, it's a $500 difference, which all of a sudden does become a little bit more meaningful, but still wasn't kind of the main factor for me deciding to do this downsize, though it's a great perk. Truly, this was all about lifestyle. When I'm in the apartment, I will be using all of it. I will be using every room, and every room will have a purpose. Also, I will enjoy the security. I have to say that because I go to Australia for a good portion of the year, and I want to be going, as I've mentioned before, for longer each year, I like the idea that my home is in a building that is monitored. If there's a flood or something like that, there are people on staff in the building that can go into your unit. They can deal with issues. There's people around the building. It just feels safer if you're going to leave a place for a long time. Now, I still have someone come in on a regular basis to water my plants and just make sure everything is good. But this is kind of an extra level of security. I don't have to worry as much that someone is going to break in, because they would have to break in many levels along the process of getting into that building. Secondly, the apartment is still in my neighborhood. I'm literally a few doors down from where I am now. I can still walk along my river path. Nothing will change for me as far as where I shop. My sister is 2 minutes away up the hill from me. The location is absolutely perfect. Not only is the apartment by the river, but there is a huge hospital 2 minutes up the road from me. A children's hospital is another 2 minutes up the road from me. There are numerous healthcare facilities. There's teaching medical campus. The university is 5 minutes away from me. It's the perfect location that if I had to ever rent the apartment out for any reason, it is so easy to rent in this neighborhood. Most of the townhomes and the condo apartments that I'm moving into are privately owned. There are not too many that are rented out. So renting here is very desirable and it's easy. Also, because of the demand for the apartments in that building, it's an easy unit to sell if you have to sell it. The building is quiet. It's really well managed by the condo board that has a lot of professionals sitting on it, and the management company is excellent. They're very strict about a lot of things, and I'm totally cool with that. So for me, there was quite a few lifestyle aspects as to why I wanted to move. Predominantly though, I wanted a smaller place to live where I was actually using the rooms, and I wanted more security in the building that I lived in. That was my decision for downsizing. Now, let me just say, making that decision and actually making it happen, making it come true, are two completely different things. In order for me to buy the apartment in the tower, I had to make a huge decision, and that was to buy the apartment before I sold my townhouse. And the reason for that is because this was the first apartment that has come up in that building in 2 years, in exactly the side that I wanted. And if I wanted it, I had to buy it. And that, my friends, was a whole other mess. Let me just say, for any of you who are retired, borrowing money when you're retired is a whole other thing. In order for me to purchase the apartment, I needed to get what's called a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, on my current existing townhouse. In Canada, and specifically in Alberta, you can only finance up to 65% of the home that you live in. So in my case, I didn't have a mortgage, so I was able to finance the full 65% of what my home is worth. Now, I don't really want to talk numbers because I think that's kind of private, but I can talk percentages. So I was lucky in that I was able to finance my current townhouse for enough money to actually purchase the entire apartment. Now, getting that HELOC was a process, everyone. Essentially, if you're retired and if you don't really have income, then you often don't qualify for things such as a mortgage or a HELOC or any kind of line of credit. Our banks in Canada are fairly conservative compared to what some of you may have in America. They are more regulated here. There's certain stress tests that have to take place. So I believe like there's the actual payment on your mortgage or your HELOC cannot be more than a certain percentage of your income. Well, when you're not really pulling an income, it's really hard to know for a bank how they can finance you. In my case, yes, I do YouTube, but I only actually have 2025 as a taxable year for my YouTube. And here the banks need 2 years of self-employment income in order to actually take that into consideration for financing. I made the application for the HELOC and I did not hear for a few weeks from the bank. I was starting to panic because, my offer hinged on being able to get this financing. Finally, I had to end up going to the branch, speaking to the branch manager, and I was lucky in that they were amazing to work with. They let me work with someone who kind of understood my situation, and I ended up getting my HELOC on the basis of the equity that I had in my current townhouse and also on the assets that I have in my investment accounts. So as soon as they kind of took that scenario and looked at financing my HELOC in that way, it only took a day and a half to get the financing. It was quite incredible. But to kind of get there and to get the bank to look at my situation differently or from a different point of view, took someone who kind of understood the circumstances and who really wanted to work with me to make this work. So, long story short, I got the financing. So how does it work? Well, essentially I have basically what kind of is a mortgage on my current property, which financed my second property. Now, the question is, are you going to be able to carry both properties? Because I can definitely pay the payments on the HELOC every month, but there's also condo fees in both places now, and there's utilities in this place. And so the expenses now are to carry two places. And can I do that? Yes, I can. It'll be tight, but I certainly can carry both places for a good number of months. Now, I don't want to. I want to be able to sell my townhouse. And once I sell my townhouse, I can pay off the HELOC and I'll be back in the same situation I was in before, as having no debt, no mortgage. But it is going to take about 3 months or so to get all that organized. So for the next 3 or 4 months, I will own two places and I will have to carry both places. Now, thank goodness for YouTube, because it does help with that, but still huge responsibility. Also, let's talk about the renovations in the new apartment. The renovations, I'm going to guess, might be in the neighborhood of around $70,000 or so. When I renovated this place, it was $60,000. That was 5 years ago. I think things have gone up, so I'm guessing it's going to be around $70,000. But I will report as this project moves on once I have an actual quote. I will be working with the same folks who did work on this place, so I'm familiar with the people I will be working with, so that's a good thing. Of course, renovations are stressful. Nothing ever goes 100% smoothly, and doing renovation in a high-rise is a totally different game than doing them in a kind of self-standing townhome. So that's going to be a bit of a process, kind of scary, but at the same time, I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about taking something that truly is not very nice, quite ugly, and making it as wonderful as my current home is. And I will take you through that journey. You will see all the renovations as they move along. Now, the amount that I got on the HELOC will also cover my renovation costs. So both my new apartment and my renovation costs are covered by my HELOC, and I will be fine on that front. So I have the finances to make this work. The hard part is that for a lot of people, this in-between part where maybe they have to sell a home and buy a new one and they might not have access to money right away, that's the really difficult situation. Could be the same if you're renting. Like for some people, they're on a very tight budget. When they leave one place and then rent another place, they have to come up with a damage deposit, maybe the first and last month of rent. So there's quite a big financial outlay. Downsizing is expensive at the beginning. It does cost money to get out of whatever situation you're in and go into the next one. And this is something that one should consider when you're thinking about downsizing, not just the logistics of moving and packing and all of that, but also the financial aspect of it. I've had the question, well, why didn't you just sell your townhouse first and put your stuff in storage and go rent somewhere and, do that? The reason I didn't do that is because the only mortgage I have right now is that one payment that I'm making on my HELOC. And it's actually lower than what it would cost me to go out and rent a place for a few months. If I was renting an Airbnb here in Calgary for a month, it would be around anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000 a month for an Airbnb. So I pay significantly less for the payments on my HELOC, even taking into account the HOA fees in both places. I'm still paying less each month than I would if I moved out of here and got a place to rent. So I decided to just stay here. The townhouse is up for sale, and if it does sell right away, I'll just negotiate a longer move out period. And if it takes a while to sell, then it's not a big deal because I can afford to carry both of these places for a while. And that also factored into my decision. Another question I got from someone was, well, why did you go with a HELOC instead of an actual mortgage? The reason I went with a HELOC is because there is no penalty if you pay that off immediately. So with a mortgage, there's always a term. So let's say, I think the minimum you can get is like a year. If I was, let's say, to sell my townhome right away and I moved out in 3 months, if I paid off a mortgage with the proceeds of my sale, I would be penalized for the interest. With a HELOC, that doesn't happen because a HELOC is essentially a line of credit. You can take out money whenever you need it, and you can pay it out whenever you want. So for me, the flexibility of having a HELOC was definitely the way to go because I'm really looking at a span of about 3 months to kind of get things all sorted out. Let's talk about the renovations a little bit. So renovations are never easy. I had a fairly smooth process in this townhouse, but things happened. At the time when I moved in here, it was actually during COVID, it was hard getting things. Like I couldn't get an IKEA kitchen. So I ended up having to do a custom kitchen, which cost a little bit more. Not a lot more, but it was more. So there's things that happen along the way which cost more money, and it's always good to factor in a little bit extra into your budget. So when someone tells me my renovations are going to be $50,000, I automatically assume it's going to be 60 or 70, and that's just reality. And if things go great, awesome. You've won the renovation game. But if they don't, then you've actually budgeted for that extra. It's really important to do that when you're renovating. Also, in my particular building, because it's a high rise, they're very picky about who your contractor is. They have to have insurance. You have to prove that they have insurance. They have to have a WCB number. You have to disclose that WCB number, that's workers' compensation, that's if someone gets hurt while they're on the job of constructing or doing your renovations. And they also had requirements for flooring. So because it's a high-rise apartment and there's people above you and people below you, they require specific types of flooring that have a certain level of decibel something or other. So I don't really understand the decibel thing, but essentially what it means is that you have to have cushioning underneath whatever flooring you choose so that it muffles sound. The building is concrete, so you have concrete floors. You cannot actually nail anything or glue anything on top of that concrete, so you have to use floating systems. There's all kinds of rules. And so your contractor needs to be really good so that they understand all of the rules that a building might require when you're doing renovations. So, am I stressed out? Yes, I am so stressed out. It'll work out in the end, but right now it feels like there's money going all over the place, which I don't like because I'm one of those people who likes to have everything organized. It's stressful because there's going to be lots of renovations happening. It's stressful because currently I have my home up for sale, so there's people going through it with the realtors, which I really hate. I hate having strangers in my home. So there's lots happening. And the way I'm dealing with it is that I focus on one thing at a time. I'm taking it one step at a time. I got my financing. That was kind of the first step. Then I purchased the apartment. That was the second step. Then I put up my own townhouse for sale, made sure everything looked amazing for all the people that are going through. So that was the third thing. Now the fourth thing is getting permissions to start the renovation, and then sitting down with my contractor and starting to choose some of the things that will go inside the apartment. The contractor will handle all the trades and the demo and that type of thing, but essentially one step at a time is how I am doing this. And on top of that, I also have YouTube, of course, and so it's a lot to juggle. But you know what? It's kind of exciting. I mean, I know not everyone is like this, but I do thrive on a little bit of stress. And like I said, I love creating something from nothing. I like seeing the ugly duckling become a swan. So I am pretty excited about some of the things that will be happening. And I guess that's offsetting some of the stress. So I don't know, yin and yang, as they say. It's a little bit of a good thing and a bad thing, and you know, it's navigating through all of that. Some of my decisions that I've had to make feel uncomfortable, which I'm not sure is necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes it's good to be uncomfortable, at least in a manageable way, because being uncomfortable means we're maybe taking a bit of a risk, but we're also moving along in life. We're not just sitting there feeling blah. For me, doing things that are sometimes uncomfortable really energizes me. And I've always found that when I've pushed myself, the end result was always a good thing. There was always a great learning experience, or something amazing has come out of it, or a new opportunity. To me, doing uncomfortable things is just a part of life, and it's what keeps us young and keeps us alive. At least that's how I feel. So this is where I'm at. I just kind of wanted to give you an overview as to where things stand and what's happening in my life, and kind of be there at the beginning of this project, of this journey, and then go along with me as things progress. My biggest wish, if dreams were to come true, I would love to sell my place fairly quickly. I don't think that's going to happen. Townhomes are usually a little bit harder to sell in Calgary. A lot of people still prefer living in a house. But my ideal situation would be to sell this soon-ish, and then get a possession date from the buyer of around November, beginning of November, and then have my renos finished by the end of October, beginning of November, and then actually do a move. That would be kind of the perfect scenario. So that's what I'm hoping for. I have a really good realtor. I'm working with some great contractors. Onward, forward, as they say. All right, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section below. If you have any suggestions, and I'm talking about positive suggestions, like, you know, I need encouragement here. Please leave them down below as well. And I will see you all next week at our regular time. Bye.